My name is Maya Chen, and I'm 21 years old. 5 years ago, on an Easter Sunday that started with sunshine and ended in a hospital room, I learned that the person who gave birth to you isn't always the one who saves your life. Let me take you back to that day, back to Charleston, South Carolina, where the Spanish moss hangs heavy from the live oak trees, and the air always smells like salt water and possibility. It was April 2019. I was 16, still young enough to believe that family meant something permanent, something you could count on. The party was at my grandfather's house in West Ashley, just 20 minutes across the Arthur Ravenel Jr. Bridge, if traffic's moving right. Grandpa Bobby Robert Chen to everyone else, but always Bobby to me through the same Easter cookout every year. 3 long folding tables set up under the biggest live oak in his backyard, the one with branches so thick and twisted they looked like they'd been there since before Charleston was even Charleston. That tree had seen everything. Hurricane Hugo in '89, countless summer storms. 3 generations of our family learning to walk, to ride bikes, to catch lightning bugs in mason jars while the grown-ups drank sweet tea and told stories that got taller every year. I remember what I was wearing that day. A pale yellow sundress that Grandpa Bobby bought me the month before at that little boutique on King Street. He'd held it up in the store and said, "This one dumpling matches your eyes." My eyes are brown, dark brown like his, like my dad's were, but I didn't correct him. When someone loves you that much, you let them see what they want to see. The party was already in full swing when I arrived around noon. Grandpa Bobby had been cooking since dawn. The smell of low-country boiled shrimp, corn, potatoes, and sausage, all boiled together with enough Old Bay seasoning to make your eyes water, mixed with the charcoal smoke from the grill where he was finishing up his special fusion ribs. Chinese 5-spice with a South Carolina mustard sauce. That was Grandpa Bobby's thing. He'd come to Charleston in the 70s, a young cop fresh out of the academy, first-generation American born to parents who'd immigrated from Guangdong. He married my grandmother Helen, an Irish Catholic girl whose family nearly disowned her for marrying a Chinese man. But they made it work. 38 years together before breast cancer took her when I was 6, the same year my dad died. "Maya, come help me with the deviled eggs," Grandpa Bobby called out when he spotted me. He was wearing his usual party outfit, khaki shorts, a polo shirt that had seen better days, and an apron that said "Kiss the Cook" in fading letters. At 72, he still moved like a man 20 years younger, all that cop training still in his muscles, even though he'd retired from the Charleston Police Department more than a decade ago. I made my way through the crowd. Cousins I hadn't seen in months, neighbors from Grandpa Bobby's street folks from his church, even a few guys from his old precinct. Everyone knew Bobby Chen. He was the kind of man who remembered your name, your kids' names, what you liked on your burger. The kind who showed up when you needed him, no questions asked. "How's my favorite granddaughter?" he asked, pulling me into a hug that smelled like Old Spice and fish sauce and home. "I'm your only granddaughter, Grandpa?" I laughed. "Well, then it's a good thing you're my favorite." He squeezed my shoulder. "You eating enough? You look thin." I wasn't thin. I was perfectly healthy. But that was Grandpa Bobby, always worried, always caring, always there. Unlike the people living in the big white house on James Island, where I technically resided but never really felt at home anymore. The party rolled on the way it always did. Kids ran through the sprinkler Grandpa Bobby set up. Adults clustered in small groups talking about everything from the Citadel's football season to the new restaurant opening up downtown to someone's daughter who just got accepted to medical school. Music played from an old boombox Motown classics because Grandpa Bobby loved Motown. The Temptations, the Supreme Smokey Robinson. Music from a time when things felt simpler, at least in his memory. I was helping him bring out the banana pudding made from Grandma Helen's recipe, the one with real vanilla wafers and meringue piled high, when I heard my mother's laugh from across the yard. Kate Morrison, formerly Kate Chen. I still had trouble calling her by her new last name, even though she'd been married to David Morrison for 8 years. She was standing by the dessert table, phone pressed to her ear, perfectly manicured hand gesturing as she talked. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who'd married well and left her old life behind like a coat that didn't fit anymore. Her blonde highlights she'd started coloring her naturally dark hair years ago gleamed in the afternoon sun. Her linen pants and silk blouse probably cost more than everything in my closet combined. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but voices carry across yards, especially when someone's laughing that particular laugh, the one that means they're talking to someone important, someone they're trying to impress. "Oh, absolutely," she was saying. "Lily and I have a full day booked tomorrow at Serenity Spa. Facials, hot stone massage, the works. It's mother-daughter time, you know. Just the two of us. My hand tightened on the serving spoon. And then we fly out Tuesday for spring break. David booked us a villa in the Bahamas. 7 days, just the three of us. Well deserved after the winter we've had. She laughed again, that bright, performative sound. Oh, no, not Maya. She's got her own things going on. Teenage stuff. You know how it is. I knew exactly how it was. I set down the banana pudding harder than I meant to. The serving spoon clattered against the glass dish. A few people glanced over, but I plastered on a smile and walked away before anyone could ask what was wrong. I found Grandpa Bobby by the grill flipping the last of the ribs. Grandpa, I think I'm going to head out early. He turned to look at me, spatula in hand, concern immediate in his dark eyes. What's wrong, Dumpling? Just a headache. The sun, you know. He didn't believe me. I could tell. But Grandpa Bobby was also the kind of man who knew when to push and when to let something go. You sure you're okay to drive? He pulled his keys from his pocket, the keys to the 1998 Jeep Wrangler we'd bought together last summer with money I'd saved from lifeguarding at Folly Beach. He'd matched every dollar I saved, then taught me how to change the oil and check the tire pressure, and all the things he said every driver should know. I'm sure. It's not far. He walked me to the Jeep parked on the street under another sprawling live oak. The Spanish moss swayed in the breeze, casting dancing shadows across the truck's red hood. Drive careful, baby girl, he said, using the nickname he'd called me since before I could remember. Text me when you get home safe. I will. And Maya. He waited until I looked at him. Whatever's bothering you, you can talk to me about it. Anytime. You know that, right? I know, Grandpa. He kissed my forehead, his lips dry and warm, then stepped back and watched as I started the engine. I could see him in my rearview mirror as I pulled away, standing there on the sidewalk in his ridiculous apron, one hand raised in a wave. Still standing there even after I turned the corner and couldn't see him anymore. I should have stayed. Looking back now, I should have told him what I overheard, should have let him fold me into one of his hugs, and tell me that it didn't matter what Kate Morrison did or didn't do, that I would always have a place at his table, in his home, in his heart. But I was 16, and hurt, and stupid, and I thought I could drive home and somehow push it all down deep enough that it wouldn't matter. I had no idea that I'd never make it home that night. To understand what happened next, to really understand it, you need to know how I ended up feeling like a guest in my own mother's house. My father, James Chen, died when I was 6 years old. Acute myeloid leukemia. 3 months from diagnosis to the end so fast we barely had time to understand what was happening before he was gone. I have snapshots of memories from before he got sick. Dad teaching me to ride a bike in our driveway, running beside me with his hand on the seat, promising he wouldn't let go even though he did, and I didn't fall. Dad reading Harry Potter out loud every night, doing all the voices, making me laugh so hard I'd get hiccups. Dad at his computer. He was a software engineer trying to teach me basic Python coding because he said understanding computers would be important for my future. Look, Maya, he'd say, pointing at lines of code on the screen. See how this works. You tell the computer what to do step by step and it does it, just like following a recipe. I was 5 years old. I had no idea what he was talking about, but I loved sitting on his lap, smelling his aftershave, feeling his voice rumble through his chest when he explained things. Then he got sick. Then he got sicker. Then he was in the hospital, all those machines beeping tubes everywhere, and my mom crying in a chair by his bed while Grandpa Bobby took me to the cafeteria for chocolate pudding because he didn't want me to see my dad like that. Then he was gone. The funeral was at St. Michael's Church downtown, the one with the tall white steeple you can see from all over Charleston. I wore a black velvet dress that was too hot for May, and I didn't understand why everyone kept crying, why they kept touching my head and saying, "That poor little girl." I wasn't poor. I had my mom. I had Grandpa Bobby. I had my dad's parents, too. Grandma and Grandpa Chen, who lived in California and flew out for the funeral, their faces gray with grief for their only son. After the funeral, everyone came back to our house. Our small brick ranch in West Ashley, the one with the magnolia tree in the front yard. People brought casseroles and fried chicken and enough food to feed an army, all of it piling up on our kitchen counter, while my mom sat on the couch staring at nothing. Everyone left eventually. My dad's parents flew back to California. My mom's friends stopped calling every day, then every week, then not at all. Life moved on the way it always does, closing around the wound of my father's death, like water filling in where a stone was pulled from a stream. Everyone left except Grandpa Bobby. He came every Saturday, sometimes Friday night too. He'd bring shrimp from Shem Creek where the fishing boats came in, and he'd cook his low-country boil or his fusion fried rice or his special egg drop soup that somehow tasted like both his Chinese mother's kitchen and Grandma Helen's Irish stew at the same time. He took me fishing off Folly Beach Pier, taught me to cast a line, to be patient, to not be disappointed when we didn't catch anything, because the point wasn't really about catching fish. He let me help him wash his old Ford pickup in the driveway, both of us getting soaked, turning the hose on each other, until we were laughing so hard we couldn't breathe. He was there. When my mom was drowning in grief so deep, she sometimes forgot to make dinner, forgot to help with homework, forgot that a 6-year-old still needed a parent. Grandpa Bobby filled the gap. My mom grieved for about a year, maybe longer. It's hard to tell when you're 7 years old and everything feels like forever. Then she met David Morrison at some charity event downtown. A fundraiser for the Gibby's Museum, I think. David was the kind of man who looks good in a suit. Tall, broad-shouldered, with perfect hair that's gone silver at the temples, in that way that makes men look distinguished instead of old. He owned Morrison Properties, a development company that was building half the new construction on Kiwa Island, those massive beach houses that rent for $10,000 a week. He drove a black Range Rover that always smelled like new leather and expensive cologne. He took my mom to nice restaurants, bought her things, made her laugh again. I should have been happy about that. And maybe part of me was. But even at 7, I could tell that David Morrison looked at me the way you might look at a piece of furniture that came with a house you just bought, useful maybe, but not what you actually wanted. They dated for 2 years. Then they got married at a beachfront ceremony on Kiawa Island. I was 9, dressed in a pale pink flower girl dress that I hated because it was scratchy and because I had to walk down the aisle alone while everyone watched. My mom looked beautiful in a white dress that showed off her shoulders. David looked pleased with himself. His family old Charleston money, the kind with ancestors who signed the Declaration of Independence, filled up half the chairs. Grandpa Bobby sat in the second row on my mom's side, wearing his good suit, the same one he'd worn to my dad's funeral. He gave me a thumbs up when I looked at him during the ceremony, and I focused on his face instead of the 200 strangers watching me scatter rose petals down a white runner. 9 months after the wedding, my half-sister was born. Lily Morrison came into the world with a head full of blonde hair and blue eyes like her father's. She was loud from day one, screaming through the nights, demanding attention, getting it. Suddenly our house, because we'd moved into David's house on James Island by then, a massive white colonial with columns and a circular driveway, suddenly that house needed a nursery. And the nursery needed to be big. And the room that was big enough was my room, the one with the balcony overlooking the oak trees. "Maya, sweetie, you understand, right?" my mom had said, standing in my doorway while I packed my books into boxes. "The baby needs more space, and you're getting so grown up. You'll love the room over the garage. It's quieter, better for studying." The room over the garage was smaller. It was darker. It was farther away from everything. It was where you put someone you're trying to forget about. I was 10 years old. Over the next 6 years, I watched myself disappear from my own family. It happened slowly then, all at once. My soccer trophies got put away to make room for Lily's baby photos. My artwork came down from the fridge to make room for Lily's finger paintings. The piano lessons I'd begged for got canceled because Lily needed a nanny, and that was expensive. "We'll pick them back up next year," my mom promised. Next year never came. David paid for everything, but he never actually saw me. I could walk into a room and his eyes would slide past me like I was furniture, like I was part of the wallpaper. But Lily got "How was your day, princess?" and "Want to help daddy with this puzzle?" and a college fund that started the day she was born. Lily got new clothes every season from that expensive boutique on King Street. I got hand-me-downs from my second cousin who lived in Columbia, clothes that didn't quite fit styles that were already out of date. Lily got enrolled in Palmetto Academy, the private school where all the Morrison family children went. I stayed at West Ashley Middle, then West Ashley High, perfectly good schools, but not good enough for David Morrison's children. Just good enough for his wife's daughter from her first marriage. My mom started introducing me as my older daughter instead of by name, like I was a category, not a person. And every time it happened, every time I felt myself fading a little more, Grandpa Bobby was there to remind me I was real. Saturday mornings at his little brick house eating French toast while he told stories about the old days on the police force. Sunday afternoons at Folly Beach, our toes in the sand watching the waves roll in. Wednesday evenings sometimes when David was working late and my mom was busy with Lily's dance class or soccer practice or whatever activity was enriching Lily's childhood that week. Wednesday evenings when Grandpa Bobby would pick me up and we'd get barbecue from Melvin's and eat it on his back porch while the sun went down. He kept my bike in his garage, the purple one with the white seat that we picked out together when I was 8. He kept the freezer stocked with bomb pops, my favorite. He kept a drawer full of art supplies because he knew I liked to draw. He kept me. By the time I was 16, I spent more nights at Grandpa Bobby's house than I did in the room over the garage on James Island. My mom never seemed to notice, or if she did, she never said anything. And that's how I ended up at that Easter party wearing a yellow sundress my grandfather bought me, eating food he cooked surrounded by people who actually knew my name. That's how I ended up overhearing my mother plan a mother-daughter spa day that didn't include me a spring break vacation. I wasn't invited to a life that had somehow moved on without me, even though I was still standing right there. That's how I ended up leaving early angry and hurt and 16 driving home alone on a Sunday evening in April when the weather was turning, and I should have known better. It was already getting dark when I merged onto Interstate 26 westbound, heading from West Ashley toward James Island. The sun was setting somewhere behind the clouds that had rolled in fast the way spring storms do in the low country. 1 minute it's beautiful. The next minute, the sky turns green-gray and mean. I had the radio up loud. Some country station Grandpa Bobby loved he'd programmed all his favorites into the Jeep's presets. Chris Stapleton was singing about Tennessee whiskey, and I was singing along badly, trying not to think about my mother's laugh, trying not to picture Lily getting a hot stone massage while I sat in my room over the garage doing homework. Traffic was light for a Sunday evening. Just the usual mix of families heading home from Easter dinners, a few 18-wheelers hauling who knows what up from Savannah or down from Columbia. Then the rain started. Not a gentle spring shower, not a drizzle. A full-on low-country downpour that went from 0 to biblical in about 30 seconds. The kind of rain that makes your windshield wipers useless even on the highest setting. The kind where you can barely see the taillights of the car 10 feet in front of you. I slowed down, moved into the right lane, turned down the radio because somehow it seemed like that would help me see better. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. "It's fine," I said out loud to myself. "Just drive slow. You've driven in rain before. But not rain like this. And not on the highway. And not alone. I should have pulled over. Should have taken the next exit and waited it out at a gas station. Should have called Grandpa Bobby and told him I was going to be late. Instead, I kept driving because I was 16 and stupid, and I thought I could handle it." My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I glanced down for just a second, just long enough to see Grandpa Bobby on the screen, and when I looked back up, the world had changed. Brake lights, dozens of them. Cars stopped dead in all 3 lanes. Stopped so suddenly there was no time to react, no time to do anything but slam on my own brakes and feel the Jeep's tires lose their grip on the wet asphalt and start to slide. I pumped the brakes like Grandpa Bobby taught me, steered into the skid. Did everything right. It didn't matter. 3 lanes ahead, I could see the reason for the sudden stop. A tractor trailer had jackknifed across the highway, its trailer perpendicular to traffic blocking everything. The driver must have hydroplaned lost control in the rain, and now he was sideways across all 3 lanes with nowhere to go. I stopped about 50 feet back. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Around me, other cars were stopping, 2 hazard lights blinking on one by one in the downpour. "Okay," I breathed. "Okay, it's okay. We're all okay." That's when I heard it. The sound that still shows up in my nightmares sometimes. A roar like a freight train getting louder, getting closer. I looked in my rearview mirror. Another 18-wheeler was coming up fast behind me. Too fast. Way too fast for the wet roads, for the reduced visibility, for the stopped traffic ahead. He wasn't going to stop in time. I could see the driver's face through the rain, distorted by water streaming down his windshield. I could see his mouth open, probably screaming, probably standing on his brakes, probably doing everything he could to stop 60,000 pounds of truck and cargo. It wasn't enough. Time did that thing it does in moments like this. It stretched out and compressed all at once. I had forever and no time at all to understand what was about to happen. The truck wasn't going to hit me head on. That would have been too clean, too quick. Instead, as he tried to brake, he started to skid. The trailer behind the cab began to swing out to the left, jackknifing just like the first truck, and I realized with perfect clarity that it was going to slam directly into the driver's side of my Jeep. I don't remember making the decision to close my eyes. I just remember darkness and Chris Stapleton still singing about Tennessee whiskey and the thought crystal clear in my mind I should have stayed at Grandpa Bobby's party. Then the world exploded. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. The impact hit like a bomb going off like every bad thing that had ever happened, all compressed into one single moment of pure destruction. The entire left side of the Jeep caved in. The driver's side door crumpled like a Coke can. Something hot and sharp sliced across my forehead. The seatbelt locked tight across my chest, so tight I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, couldn't do anything but feel my body ragdoll as the Jeep flipped. Once. Twice. The roof caving in, windows shattering, my head slamming against something hard. The world spinning, tumbling, pieces of my life flying past in fragments. Grandpa Bobby's face. My dad reading Harry Potter. The yellow dress I'd worn just hours ago now probably ripped to shreds. Then stillness. Upside down. The Jeep had come to rest on its roof against the median barrier. Rain drummed on the undercarriage now above me. Something was dripping, oil maybe, or coolant. Or blood. I tried to move. Couldn't. The seatbelt was still locked, holding me suspended upside down. My left leg was twisted at an angle that wasn't right. My hip felt like it was on fire. I tasted blood in my mouth, metallic and warm. And the pain. Oh God, the pain. It started in my pelvis and radiated out like someone had taken a hammer to every bone in my body. I tried to call for help. Nothing came out but a wheeze. Somewhere far away I heard sirens. Then voices shouting. Then hands on the Jeep rocking it, trying to get to me. "We need the jaws," someone yelled. "Driver's side is completely crushed. I can't get the door open." "How many victims?" "Just one. Female, looks young. She's conscious but not responsive." "I'm here," I tried to say. "I'm right here." Nothing came out. They cut me out of the Jeep. I remember the sound of the hydraulic cutters, the screech of metal being peeled away. I remember strong hands supporting my neck, someone counting to 3 before they moved me. I remember the rain on my face when they finally got me out cold and clean, washing away the blood. I remember the inside of the ambulance. Bright lights. A paramedic with kind eyes saying, "Stay with me, honey. What's your name? Can you tell me your name?" "Maya," I whispered. "Maya Chen." "Okay, Maya. How old are you?" 16. "Good. That's good. Who do we call Maya? Who's your emergency contact?" I should have said my mom, but that's not what came out. "Bobby Chen," I said. "Call Grandpa Bobby." Then the pain got too big and the world got too small and everything went black. I don't remember arriving at MUSC, the Medical University of South Carolina, downtown Charleston's Level 1 Trauma Center. That part is gone, erased by shock and pain, and the brain's mercy in protecting us from the things we can't handle. But I know what happened because Grandpa Bobby told me later. Every detail. He said I deserved to know the truth, even the ugly parts. Especially the ugly parts. The ambulance radioed ahead. Trauma Bay 1 was ready and waiting when they wheeled me in at 7:47 p.m. The time is in the hospital records. Grandpa Bobby got copies of everything later. Dr. Amir Hassan was the trauma surgeon on call that night. 38 years old, trained at Johns Hopkins, 5 years at MUSC. He'd seen his share of highway accidents, but something about this one about me stuck with him. He told Grandpa Bobby later that I looked young, too young, and there was something about my eyes, the way they tracked his face, even through the pain, that made him think fighter. The initial assessment took less than 3 minutes. "Massive blunt force trauma to the left side," Dr. Hassan called out to his team. "Pelvis is shattered. I'm seeing at least 4 fracture points. Abdomen is rigid. Likely ruptured spleen, possibly liver laceration. Pupils are unequal, possible intracranial bleed. Someone get me a CT stat." They cut off my yellow sundress. Sliced through the fabric that Grandpa Bobby had been so happy to see me wear just hours before. Started IVs in both arms. Put a tube down my throat because I wasn't breathing well enough on my own. Needles, tubes, monitors, everything happening at once in a choreographed dance of organized chaos. A nurse named Maria Alvarez held my hand. I don't remember her, but Grandpa Bobby met her later, thanked her. She told him that even though I was barely conscious, my fingers squeezed hers when she said, "You're going to be okay, honey. We've got you." But they didn't have me. Not really. Not yet. Because they needed parental consent for emergency surgery, and I was 16 years old. Dr. Hassan stepped back from the table, snapping off his bloody gloves. How long until we get consent, because she's got maybe an hour before this becomes irreversible. Nurse Alvarez grabbed my phone from the plastic bag with my personal belongings. The screen was cracked, but still working. She scrolled through my contacts, found Mom, with a little heart emoji next to it, and hit the FaceTime button. It rang 3 times. In the trauma bay, machines beeped. Someone called out my blood pressure, 90/60 and dropping. Dr. Hassan glanced at his watch. Time was running out. Then the call connected. The first thing they heard was music. Soft ambient spa music. The sound of flowing water and wind chimes. Peaceful. Serene. Then a face appeared on the screen, and Nurse Alvarez angled the phone so my mother could see me on the gurney, blood-soaked, intubated, dying. Kate Morrison's face filled the small screen. She had a clay mask on, pale green and smooth, with cucumber slices over her eyes. Her hair was wrapped in a towel. She looked relaxed. She looked annoyed at being interrupted. "Hello," she said, her voice slightly muffled by the mask. "Mrs. Morrison." Nurse Alvarez kept her voice professional calm, even though her hand was shaking. "This is Maria Alvarez calling from the MUSC Trauma Center. I'm a registered nurse. Your daughter Maya has been in a serious motor vehicle accident. She has life-threatening injuries and requires immediate emergency surgery. We need your verbal consent right now, or she may not survive the next hour." There was a long pause. Long enough that for a second Nurse Alvarez thought the call had frozen. Then Kate Morrison peeled one cucumber slice off her right eye and squinted at the screen. In the background, another face appeared. Lily, 14 years old, was lying on the massage table next to her mother, a pink silk eye mask pushed up on her forehead. She leaned over to see what was happening. "Oh my God," Lily said, not quite off camera. "Is that Maya?" Dr. Hassan stepped into the frame. "Mrs. Morrison, I'm Dr. Hassan, the trauma surgeon. Your daughter has sustained multiple critical injuries. We're looking at a shattered pelvis, internal bleeding, and a possible brain bleed. We need to get her to the operating room immediately. This is life or death. I need your consent to proceed." The medical team waited. The machines continued their urgent beeping. My blood pressure continued to drop. Kate Morrison sighed. Actually sighed like someone had just asked her to move her car or answer a survey or do something mildly inconvenient. She paused, closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she looked directly at the camera, and what she said next would be played in a courtroom 9 months later. "I can't process this right now. I'm not in the right headspace to make medical decisions. Can you call her grandfather, Robert Chen? He'll handle it." Nurse Alvarez leaned closer to the phone, her voice rising slightly despite her professional training. "Ma'am, this is a legal requirement for a minor. Your daughter is—" "I heard you," Kate cut her off. "I heard you, but I can't. We're in the middle of a treatment here. We paid for a full day. Just call my father. He's her emergency contact too. He'll know what to do." Behind Kate, Lily was holding her own phone now. The angle wasn't quite right, but Nurse Alvarez could see it. Could see Lily pointing her camera at the FaceTime call at me on the gurney taking a screenshot. Dr. Hassan's jaw tightened. "Mrs. Morrison, your daughter is dying. Right now. She has minutes, not hours. Are you refusing to provide consent?" "I'm not refusing," Kate said, and her voice shook just slightly. I'm not the right person for this. Call Robert. Please, just call Robert." The call ended. The trauma bay went silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then someone muttered, "Jesus Christ." And someone else started moving again, checking my vitals, adjusting the IV drip, doing what they could while they waited for anyone who would fight for me to live. Nurse Alvarez stood there holding my phone, staring at the blank screen, her hand trembling so badly she almost dropped it. Dr. Hassan grabbed her shoulder. "Find the grandfather, now." She scrolled through my contacts again, found Grandpa Bobby, with about 40 heart emojis after it, and dialed. He answered on the first ring. Grandpa Bobby was sitting on his back porch when his phone rang, cleaning shrimp for Monday's dinner. The sun had set, but the porch light was on, attracting moths that bumped against the screen. He had his reading glasses perched on his nose, NPR playing softly on the radio he kept on the windowsill. He almost didn't answer. Unknown number. Probably spam. But something made him pick up. "Mr. Chen." The woman's voice was professional but urgent. "This is Maria Alvarez. I'm a nurse at MUSC Medical Center. I'm calling about your granddaughter Maya Chen." The bowl of shrimp hit the porch floor. Bobby was already standing, already moving toward his truck phone pressed to his ear. What happened is she... He couldn't finish the sentence. She's been in a serious car accident on I-26. She's critical, Mr. Chen. We need consent for emergency surgery and we couldn't reach her mother. Can you get here? I'm already in my truck, Bobby said, and it was true. He was running across his yard, still wearing his rubber fishing boots and the old apron stained with shrimp juice. Tell her I'm coming. Tell her Grandpa's coming. Don't let her... His voice cracked. Don't let her be alone. We won't, sir, but please hurry. Bobby Chen had been a cop for 32 years. He'd chased suspects through the back streets of Charleston, had responded to every kind of emergency imaginable, had learned to stay calm under pressure. But this was different. This was Maya. This was the little girl who used to fall asleep on his shoulder during Sunday dinners, who brought him dandelions from the yard like they were roses, who still called him even when she didn't need anything just to say hi. He broke every traffic law he'd ever enforced. Ran red lights, hit 90 on the connector, prayed in English and the Cantonese his mother taught him in whatever language God might be listening to. Please, please, please don't take her too. He'd already lost his wife, his son-in-law. He couldn't lose Maya. The rain had started again by the time he reached the hospital. He left his truck in a no-parking zone, didn't care, just ran through the emergency entrance with his boots squeaking on the linoleum, still wearing that ridiculous apron, his old police badge clipped to his belt out of pure habit. Maya Chen, he gasped at the reception desk. My granddaughter. Car accident. They called me Mr. Chen. A woman in scrubs appeared, Nurse Alvarez. Come with me. We need your signature right now. They rushed him through double doors into a hallway that smelled like antiseptic and fear. She thrust a clipboard at him, papers already marked with colored tabs. Sign here, here, and here. We're releasing her to surgery the moment you sign. Bobby's hand shook so badly he could barely hold the pen. He didn't read the forms. Didn't need to. Whatever they needed to do to save her, they had his permission. Where is she? He asked, scrawling his name across the last line. Nurse Alvarez took the clipboard and pointed to a bay behind a glass wall. You have 2 minutes before they take her up. Bobby rushed to the doorway and stopped dead. She didn't look like Maya. This small broken thing on the gurney tubes everywhere, Machine's beeping face so swollen and bruised he barely recognized her. Blood in her dark hair. A breathing tube down her throat. Hands that should have been drawing in her sketchbook or texting her friends now lying motionless of lines snaking from both arms. He walked to her side, took her hand, the one without the IV, and it was cold. Too cold. Hey, Dumpling, he whispered, his voice breaking. It's Grandpa. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere, you hear me? You fight. You fight like hell, baby girl. He thought he felt her fingers twitch, but maybe that was just wishful thinking. Dr. Hassan appeared at his shoulder. Mr. Chen, we need to take her now. Bobby leaned down, kissed Maya's forehead, gently avoiding the gash above her eyebrow. I've got you, baby girl. Grandpa's right here. I'll be waiting when you wake up. I promise. They wheeled her away. He watched the gurney disappear through another set of double doors, watched until even the sound of the wheels on linoleum faded away. Then he found the surgical waiting room, claimed a hard plastic chair near the window, and began the longest night of his life. The surgery took 9 hours. Bobby didn't move. Nurses came by with coffee. He didn't drink sandwiches he didn't eat. Other families came and went, their own dramas playing out in whispered conversations and tears. The TV in the corner played the late news, then the early morning news. Rain drummed against the windows. Lightning occasionally lit up the dark sky. Bobby sat with his hands folded, still wearing those rubber boots, and he prayed. At 4:47 a.m., Dr. Hassan finally emerged, still in his surgical scrubs, exhaustion written across his face. Bobby shot to his feet. Is she made it through surgery, Dr. Hassan said quickly. But Mr. Chen, I need you to understand how serious this is. We had to remove her spleen. Her pelvis was shattered in 4 places. We've plated and screwed what we could, but it's going to be a long recovery. We also evacuated a subdural hematoma bleeding in her brain. The next 48 hours are critical. If she can make it through that, her chances improve significantly. Can I see her? They're setting her up in the ICU now. Give them 20 minutes, then someone will come get you. 20 minutes felt like 20 years. But finally, a nurse led him through more hallways, through more double doors into the intensive care unit where every room was glass-walled so the nurses could watch everyone at once. Maya was in room 7, still unconscious, still intubated, still covered in tubes and wires and bandages, but alive. There was a vinyl recliner next to her bed. Bobby sank into it and took her hand again. "I'm here, Dumpling," he said softly. "I'm not leaving," and he didn't. For the next 18 days, Bobby Chen lived in that vinyl recliner. Nurses tried to send him home. He showed them his old badge and said, "I'm not going anywhere." After the first night, they stopped asking. He slept in 30-minute increments, head tipped back, mouth open, one hand always on Maya's bed rail, so he'd wake if anything changed. When he was awake, he talked to her, constantly. Stories about her dad, about her grandmother Helen, about the day Maya was born, and he held her first because Kate was too exhausted. "You came out screaming," he told her on day 3, watching the ventilator breathe for her. "Loudest baby in the nursery. Nurse said you had opinions from day 1. Your dad laughed so hard he cried. He looked at you and said she's perfect. And you were. You are." On day 5, he read To Kill a Mockingbird out loud, the copy he kept in his truck, doing all the voices the way her dad used to. On day 7, he hummed the old Cantonese lullaby his mother sang to him as a child, the melody drifting through the sterile room like a prayer. Dr. Sarah Kim, the orthopedic surgeon, checked on Maya every day. She was Korean-American second generation, like Bobby was second-generation Chinese, and something about that created an unspoken understanding between them. "You should go home, Mr. Chen," she said gently on day 9. "Get a real shower. Sleep in a real bed." "I'll shower when she wakes up," Bobby replied. "I'll sleep when I know she's going to make it." Dr. Kim nodded. She understood. Family was different in their cultures. You didn't leave. You didn't give up. You stayed. Kate never came. Bobby knew she'd called the hospital twice in the first week asking for updates, but she never came. Never sat in this chair. Never held Maya's hand. Never whispered promises in the dark. David Morrison sent flowers on day 4. Expensive ones. Bobby had them sent to the children's ward. He didn't want Maya to see them when she woke up. Lily didn't call at all. On day 16, something changed. The numbers on the monitors started moving the right direction. Maya's blood pressure stabilized. The ventilator settings were decreased. She started breathing more on her own. "This is good," Dr. Hassan said, allowing himself a small smile. "This is very good. We might be able to extubate her in the next day or 2. Bobby felt hope for the first time in over 2 weeks. That afternoon, while he sat reading about Scout Finch and Boo Radley, a man in a Navy suit appeared at the glass door. Tom Donovan. They'd worked together back in the day. Tom had been a prosecutor when Bobby was still on the force. Now he ran his own practice, mostly family law. Bobby looked up, met Tom's eyes through the glass, and gave a single nod. Tom returned the nod and left without saying a word. They'd talk later. After Maya woke up. After Bobby knew for certain she would live. Because there were things that needed to be done. Papers that needed to be filed. A mother who'd chosen a spa day over her daughter's life, and a legal system that needed to know about it. But that could wait. First, Maya needed to open her eyes. Not much, just a small flex, the faintest squeeze around Bobby's hand. But he felt it. "Maya!" He leaned forward, his heart suddenly hammering. "Dumpling, can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered. "That's it, baby girl. Come on back. I'm right here." Slowly, like it took every ounce of strength she had, Maya opened her eyes. The world was blurry at first. Shapes and lights and sounds that didn't make sense. Then things started to focus. White ceiling, machines beeping, and a face weathered and lined and more beautiful than anything she'd ever seen. "Grandpa?" The word came out as barely a whisper raw from the breathing tube that had been removed 2 days earlier. "Hey, Dumpling?" Bobby's eyes filled with tears. "Welcome back." Maya tried to move and immediately regretted it. Pain exploded through her left side, stealing her breath. "Don't move," Bobby said quickly, his hand gentle on her shoulder. "You've been hurt pretty bad, but you're going to be okay. You hear me? You're going to be okay." "What?" Her throat felt like sandpaper. "What happened?" "Car accident. On the highway. You've been in the hospital for 18 days. 18 days. The number didn't make sense. The last thing she remembered was rain and headlights. And the truck, she whispered. There was a truck. Yeah, there was. But you're here now. You made it. Nurses rushed in, called by the monitor alerts. They checked her pupils. Her vitals asked her questions. What's your name? How old are you? What year is it? Maya answered them all, her voice getting a little stronger with each response. When they finally left, Maya looked at her grandfather. Really looked at him. His gray hair was uncombed. His clothes were rumpled like he'd been sleeping in them for days, which he had. His eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted. But he was smiling. Grandpa, have you been here the whole time? Where else would I be? Maya felt tears sliding down her cheeks into her ears. Mom, Bobby's smile faltered just slightly. Let's talk about that later, okay, when you're feeling stronger. No. Maya's hand tightened on his. Tell me now, where is she? Bobby was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached for the whiteboard at the foot of her bed and lifted it so she could read it. Patient Maya Chen, age 16, legal guardian, Robert Chen. Maya stared at the words. Read them again and again. I don't understand. Bobby set the board down and pulled his chair closer. Dumpling, there's a lot we need to talk about. But the most important thing, the only thing that matters right now is that you're safe. You're here. And I'm not going anywhere. Ever. You understand me? But Mom, Maya's voice broke. She didn't come. In 18 days she didn't. No, baby, she didn't. Something inside Maya cracked. Not broke, it had been broken for years. This was different. This was the sound of finally letting go of something she'd been holding on to her whole life. The hope that maybe someday her mother would choose her, would see her, would love her the way Bobby did, unconditionally, completely, without having to be asked. Tell me everything, Maya whispered. I need to know. So Bobby told her. About the FaceTime call. About Kate's words, I can't process this right now. About the spa treatment she wouldn't interrupt. About Lily's screenshot and the post that followed. About the consent forms Bobby signed while Maya was dying. About the 18 days he spent in that vinyl recliner while Kate stayed away. He told her everything because Maya deserved the truth, because lies, even kind ones, only hurt worse in the end. When he finished, Maya was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I'm glad it was you, Grandpa. I'm glad you're the one who stayed. Bobby kissed her forehead. I'll always be the one who stays, Dumpling. Always. 3 weeks after Maya woke up, she was finally discharged from MUSC. Not to the white colonial house on James Island, but to Grandpa Bobby's cottage on Folly Beach, a small gray house on stilts with weathered wood siding and a porch that faced the ocean. Bobby had converted his fishing room into a bedroom for her. Pale blue walls, the same color as the sky on a clear morning. The wind chimes they'd made together when she was 9 hung in the window, tinkling softly in the salt breeze. From her bed, Maya could see the waves rolling in endless and steady like a heartbeat. Welcome home, Dumpling, Bobby said, carrying her over the threshold because she still couldn't manage the stairs with her walker. Home. The word settled into Maya's chest, warm and real, in a way the James Island house had never been. Physical therapy started the following Monday. 3 times a week, Bobby drove her to the MUSC outpatient center, where a therapist named Jennifer pushed Maya to do things that seemed impossible. Stand for 30 seconds. Walk 5 steps. Balance on 1 foot for a count of 3. Everything hurt. Her hips screamed with every movement. Her pelvis felt like it might shatter all over again. Some days Maya cried from the pain, and Jennifer would give her a moment to breathe before gently saying, Okay, now let's try again. Bobby waited in the lobby every single time, reading his fishing magazines, doing crossword puzzles, always there when she emerged sweating and exhausted. You did good today, he'd say every time, no matter how badly the session had gone. I couldn't even do the stairs. You did better than yesterday. That's what matters. On Thursday afternoons, a different kind of therapy. Dr. Elena Rivera's office was small and comfortable with soft lighting and tissues always within reach. Dr. Rivera was maybe 40 with kind eyes and a direct way of speaking that Maya appreciated. Tell me about your mother, Dr. Rivera said during their second session. Maya stared at the ceiling. What's there to tell she chose a spa day over me dying? That's what happened. But how does it make you feel? I don't know. Angry, sad, relieved, kind of. Relieved. Maya struggled to find the words. Like, I spent so many years trying to be good enough for her to love me, trying to be quieter, smarter, less inconvenient, and it never worked. But now I know it was never about me. I could have been perfect and it wouldn't have mattered. So I can stop trying. Dr. Rivera nodded. That's very insightful, Maya, and incredibly painful. Yeah, Maya's voice cracked. It really is. One evening in early May, about a month after her discharge, Tom Donovan came to visit. He sat at Bobby's kitchen table with a thick folder of papers, his expression serious. Maya, I need to explain what's happening legally. You're old enough to understand and you deserve to know. He laid it out clearly. The hospital was suing Kate Morrison for refusal to authorize emergency treatment and failure to pay medical expenses. The surgery and 18 days in ICU had cost over $380,000. Kate had excellent insurance through David's company, but she'd refused to authorize payment, claiming she wasn't informed of the full situation. The recording proves otherwise, Tom said quietly. The FaceTime call was documented. Her words are clear. Additionally, Bobby had filed an emergency petition to terminate Kate's parental rights and gain full legal guardianship of Maya. I probably should have asked you first, Bobby said, looking worried. But you were still in the hospital and I needed to make sure you were protected. If you don't want— I want it, Maya interrupted. Grandpa, I want it. Relief washed over Bobby's face. There's one more thing, Tom said carefully. Lily's involvement. She posted your photo online while you were on that gurney. The caption and the way she shared it, it shows a pattern of callousness that the court will consider. Maya thought about her half-sister, 14 years old, thoughtless, spoiled, but also just a kid who'd grown up in a house where Maya didn't matter, learning by example that some people were worth caring about and others weren't. She was stupid, Maya said finally. But she's 14. I was stupid at 14 too. I don't want her destroyed over this. Tom nodded. I'll make note of that for the record. The consequences for the Morrison family came swift and brutal. David Morrison filed for divorce 2 weeks after the lawsuit was served. His company was in the middle of a massive development deal with the Port Authority, and the last thing he needed was headlines about child abandonment tied to his name. He moved out of the James Island house within days, taking only his clothes and golf clubs. Kate lost her job at MUSC 3 weeks later. The medical center couldn't keep a nurse on staff who'd refused emergency consent for her own daughter. The termination letter cited ethical violations incompatible with medical standards. Lily's full-ride academic scholarship to Charleston Day School was revoked. The board held an emergency meeting and decided that Lily's social media behavior reflected values inconsistent with the school's mission. Other colleges and prep schools she'd applied to started withdrawing their offers. The James Island house went into foreclosure. David had put it in Kate's name for tax purposes, and now with the hospital's lien attached, and Kate unable to make the mortgage payments, the bank moved to seize it. By July, Kate and Lily had moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment off Savannah Highway, the kind with peeling paint and a parking lot full of potholes. Kate took a job stocking shelves at a grocery store on the night shift. Lily enrolled in the local public high school, no longer the princess of private education. Bobby never gloated. When Maya asked about them, he'd just say, "They made choices. Now they're living with them." But Maya knew it was more complicated than that. Late at night when she couldn't sleep because her hip ached or her nightmares woke her, she'd think about her mother. Not the woman who'd refused to come to the hospital, but the woman from before. The one who used to read Harry Potter in different voices. The one who'd held Maya tight after her dad died and promised, "We'll get through this together." What had changed? When had Kate stopped seeing Maya as a daughter and started seeing her as an obligation? Was it grief, depression, the pressure from David to prioritize the real family? Dr. Rivera said it didn't matter. You can understand someone's pain without excusing their choices. Your mother failed you. Why she failed you is her story to tell, not yours to figure out. Still, Maya wondered. The preliminary hearing was set for October, 6 months after the accident. By then, Maya could walk without assistance, though she still had a slight limp that the doctors said might be permanent. The scar on her forehead had faded to a thin pink line. She'd started her senior year at Charleston County School of the Arts, a small public school that Bobby had researched carefully, looking for somewhere Maya could rebuild without the weight of her past following her. The courthouse was the old one on Broad Street, all marble columns and wood paneling, The kind of building that made you whisper even when you didn't have to. Maya walked in on Bobby's arm wearing a simple blue dress he'd helped her pick out. Tom Donovan met them at the entrance. "You ready?" he asked Maya. She nodded, even though she wasn't sure that was true. Kate and Lily sat at the defendant's table. Kate wore a navy suit that looked too big, like she'd lost weight. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun, no makeup, dark circles under her eyes. Lily sat beside her in a blazer that was clearly borrowed, staring at her hands, looking younger than 14. Judge Patricia O'Connor was exactly what you'd imagine a Charleston judge to be. Steel gray hair, reading glasses on a chain, an expression that suggested she'd seen every kind of human stupidity and wasn't impressed by any of it. "Let's proceed," she said, and the bailiff called the court to order. Tom Donovan presented the case efficiently. The FaceTime recording played on the large screen at the front of the courtroom. Maya forced herself to watch it, to see her own broken body on that gurney, to hear her mother's voice saying, "I can't process this right now." The courtroom was silent except for the sound of the recording. When it ended, Judge O'Connor removed her glasses and cleaned them slowly. "Mrs. Morrison," she said, "I've been on this bench for 23 years. I have never heard a parent respond to their child's medical emergency this way." Kate's lawyer, Marcus Webb, stood quickly. "Your Honor, if I may." Mrs. Morrison was experiencing a mental health crisis at the time. She'd suffered a miscarriage 6 months prior and was on antidepressants that can affect judgment. She wasn't in a state to make medical decisions, which is why she directed the hospital to contact Mr. Chen. "Who is not the legal guardian," Judge O'Connor interrupted. "Or rather, who wasn't at the time. The hospital needed parental consent, and Mrs. Morrison chose to finish her spa treatment instead." "She was overwhelmed, Your Honor. She made a mistake in a moment of extreme stress. A mistake that nearly cost her daughter her life." The judge called Bobby to the stand next. He looked uncomfortable in his suit, his tie slightly crooked, but his voice was steady as he answered Tom's questions. "Mr. Chen, why did you petition for guardianship?" "Because when my granddaughter needed someone to fight for her life, I was the only one who showed up. And because I love her. I've always loved her. And I always will." Marcus Webb cross-examined. "Isn't it true that you've always resented your daughter's remarriage to Mr. Morrison?" "I resented watching Maya disappear in her own home," Bobby replied calmly. "I resented seeing a child treated like she didn't matter." "You saw an opportunity to take Maya away from her mother." Bobby's jaw tightened. "I saw a child bleeding out on an operating table while her mother chose comfort over her life. That's not an opportunity. That's a tragedy." Then Maya was called to testify. She walked to the stand trying not to limp, trying to look stronger than she felt. She swore to tell the truth and sat down, her hands folded in her lap. Tom asked her to describe what she remembered of the accident, the hospital waking up. Maya answered each question carefully, honestly. Then he asked, "How did you feel when you learned your mother hadn't come to the hospital?" Maya took a breath. The courtroom waited. "I felt like I'd been mourning her my whole life," she said quietly. "And she finally proved me right." The words hung in the air. Marcus Webb's cross-examination was gentle. Even he seemed to recognize that attacking Maya would be a bad look. "Maya, do you love your mother?" Maya considered the question. "I love the mother I wish I had. I don't know the one sitting over there." "If your mother asked for forgiveness, would you give it?" "Forgiveness isn't the same as trust. I might forgive her someday, but I'll never trust her to choose me again." Judge O'Connor deliberated for 45 minutes. When she returned, the courtroom rose. "In the matter of guardianship of Maya Chen," the judge began, "parental rights of Catherine Morrison are hereby terminated. Full legal guardianship and adoption rights are granted to Robert Chen." Bobby exhaled shakily, reaching for Maya's hand. "In the matter of the civil suit," Judge O'Connor continued, "I find for the plaintiff. Mrs. Morrison is ordered to pay $280,000 in medical expenses and damages. The James Island property will be sold to satisfy the judgment." Kate made a small sound, not quite a sob, but close. "Court is adjourned." The gavel fell like a period at the end of a very long sentence. Ion with her mother. The story reaches its emotional conclusion next.